Agoti in Buddhism refers to a wrong course of behavior or a deviation from the path of virtuous conduct and wisdom. Agoti encompasses any actions, thoughts, or speech that deviate from the principles of ethical conduct sila and wisdom panya prescribed by the Buddha. It includes unwholesome actions motivated by greed, hatred, or delusion, as well as erroneous beliefs or attitudes that lead to suffering and harm. Agoti also refers to prejudice or bias, based on distorted views, stereotypes, or discrimination against others. It arises from ignorance of vijja and clinging to the illusion of a separate self, leading to harmful attitudes and actions towards oneself and others. Agoti is one of the root causes of suffering dukkha in Buddhism, as it perpetuates the cycle of unwholesome actions and their consequences. These may include 1. Shondagati in Buddhism refers to prejudice or partiality caused by love or desire. Shondagati refers to biased or discriminatory attitudes and actions stemming from attachment and desire. It involves favoring or showing preference towards certain individuals or groups based on personal feelings of affection, attraction, or desire. Shondagati arises from the influence of attachment chanda to particular people, objects, or outcomes. Practitioners may display favoritism or partiality towards those they are emotionally attached to, often at the expense of impartiality and fairness. Shondagati distorts perception and judgment, leading practitioners to overlook faults or shortcomings in those they are attached to, and to unfairly discriminate against others who do not evoke the same emotional response. Shondagati is fueled by attachment and desire for specific individuals or outcomes. Practitioners may develop emotional bonds or infatuations that cloud their judgment and lead to biased or preferential treatment. Shondagati arises from a lack of equanimity upekkha, and impartiality in one's relationships and interactions. Practitioners may struggle to maintain balance and objectivity, particularly when personal desires or interests are involved. Shondagati may also be influenced by self-interest and the desire for personal gain or gratification. Practitioners may show favoritism towards those who benefit them in some way, consciously or unconsciously. Shondagati can lead to harm and injustice towards others who are unfairly treated or discriminated against. Practitioners may neglect their responsibilities or duties towards those who do not fulfill their desires or expectations, leading to resentment and conflict. Shondagati is an obstacle to spiritual progress and ethical development, as it undermines the cultivation of virtues such as loving-kindness metta, compassion karuna, and equanimity upekkha. Practitioners who are swayed by attachment and desire may find it difficult to cultivate wholesome qualities and attain liberation from suffering. The remedy for Shondagati lies in the cultivation of equanimity and impartiality towards all beings, regardless of personal preferences or desires. Practitioners develop mindfulness, sati, to recognize the influence of attachment and desire in their thoughts and actions, and cultivate equanimity to maintain balance and objectivity in their relationships. Practitioners reflect on the impermanent and insubstantial nature of attachment and desire, recognizing that clinging to transient phenomena leads to suffering and delusion. By cultivating insight into the nature of desire and its consequences, practitioners can gradually overcome Shondagati and cultivate genuine love and compassion for all beings. 2. Dosagati in Buddhism refers to prejudice or partiality caused by hatred or enmity. Dosagati involves biased or discriminatory attitudes and actions stemming from aversion, hatred, or enmity towards certain individuals or groups. It manifests as unfair treatment, hostility, or aggression towards those perceived as enemies or adversaries. Dosagati arises from the influence of hatred, dosa, and aversion towards others, Practitioners may harbor deep-seated animosity or resentment towards individuals or groups, leading to prejudiced judgments and unfair treatment. Dosogity distorts perception and judgment, leading practitioners to perceive others through the lens of aversion and hostility. This may result in demonizing or dehumanizing those seen as enemies, and justifying harmful actions or discrimination against them. Dosogity is fueled by hatred, aversion, or ill will towards specific individuals or groups. Practitioners may harbor grudges, resentments, or grievances that color their perception and lead to biased or unfair treatment. Dosogity arises from a lack of compassion, karuna, and empathy towards others, particularly those perceived as enemies or adversaries. Practitioners may be unwilling or unable to see the humanity and suffering of others, leading to callousness and indifference. Dosogity may also be influenced by societal conditioning, cultural biases, or past experiences of conflict or trauma. Practitioners may internalize negative stereotypes or prejudices towards certain groups, perpetuating cycles of animosity and division. Dosogity can lead to harm and injustice towards those perceived as enemies or adversaries. Practitioners may engage in verbal or physical aggression, discrimination, or exclusion, perpetuating cycles of conflict and suffering. Dosogity is an obstacle to spiritual progress and ethical development, as it undermines the cultivation of virtues such as loving-kindness metta, compassion karuna, and equanimity upekkha. Practitioners who are swayed by hatred and aversion may find it difficult to cultivate wholesome qualities and attain liberation from suffering. The remedy for dosogity lies in the cultivation of loving-kindness metta towards all beings, including those perceived as enemies or adversaries. Practitioners develop mindfulness, sati, to recognize the influence of hatred and aversion in their thoughts and actions, and cultivate loving-kindness as an antidote to animosity and hostility. Practitioners practice forgiveness and reconciliation towards those they perceive as enemies, letting go of past grievances and resentments. By cultivating compassion and understanding, practitioners break the cycle of hatred and violence and foster reconciliation and healing. 3. Mohogati in Buddhism refers to prejudice or partiality caused by delusion or stupidity. Mohogati involves biased or discriminatory attitudes and actions stemming from delusion or stupidity. It manifests as distorted perceptions, misguided beliefs, or irrational judgments based on ignorance of the true nature of reality. Mohogati arises from the influence of delusion, moha, or ignorance of ija, about the nature of existence. Practitioners may hold mistaken views, false assumptions, or superstitions that lead to prejudiced attitudes and behaviors. Mohogati distorts perception and judgment, leading practitioners to misinterpret reality and make unwise decisions. This may result in misguided actions, harmful choices, or unfair treatment of others due to a lack of understanding or insight. Mohogati is fueled by ignorance or confusion about the nature of oneself and the world. Practitioners may lack awareness of the Four Noble Truths, the law of karma, and the interconnectedness of all beings, leading to misguided beliefs and actions. Mohogati may also arise from attachment to fixed views, opinions, or ideologies that are not grounded in wisdom or understanding. Practitioners cling to narrow-minded perspectives and reject alternative viewpoints, perpetuating cycles of delusion and conflict. Mohogati may be influenced by societal conditioning, cultural norms, or indoctrination into belief systems that reinforce ignorance and superstition. Practitioners may uncritically accept and propagate false beliefs or prejudices without questioning their validity or implications. Mohogati can lead to harm and suffering for oneself and others, as misguided beliefs and actions perpetuate cycles of ignorance and delusion. Practitioners may make unwise decisions, engage in harmful behaviors, or discriminate against others based on false assumptions or prejudices. Mohogati is an obstacle to spiritual progress and ethical development, as it undermines the cultivation of wisdom, panya, and insight into the nature of reality. Practitioners who are swayed by delusion may find it difficult to discern right from wrong, and to cultivate wholesome qualities conducive to liberation from suffering. The remedy for mohogati lies in the cultivation of wisdom, panya, through study, reflection, and meditation on the teachings of the Buddha. Practitioners develop mindfulness, sati, to recognize the influence of delusion and ignorance in their thoughts and actions, and cultivate insight into the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and impersonal nature of phenomena. Practitioners engage in critical thinking, questioning, and inquiry, to challenge false beliefs and assumptions, and to cultivate discernment and understanding by examining the causes and conditions of delusion and stupidity. Practitioners gradually overcome mohogati and cultivate genuine wisdom and insight. 4. Bhayogati in Buddhism refers to prejudice or partiality caused by fear. Bhayogati involves biased or discriminatory attitudes and actions stemming from fear. It manifests as mistrust, suspicion, or hostility towards individuals or groups perceived as threatening or dangerous. Bhayogati arises from the influence of fear bhaya, or anxiety about potential harm or danger. Practitioners may feel threatened by unfamiliar or perceived threats, leading to defensive or aggressive behavior towards others. Bhayogati distorts perception and judgment, leading practitioners to exaggerate or misinterpret threats, and to overreact or respond with hostility. This may result in the scapegoating, stereotyping, or discrimination of certain individuals or groups, based on unfounded fears or prejudices. Bhayogati is fueled by feelings of insecurity and vulnerability in the face of perceived threats or dangers. Practitioners may fear loss of safety, resources, or status, leading to defensive or aggressive responses towards others perceived as competitors or adversaries. Bhayogati may also arise from ignorance or misunderstanding about others who are perceived as different or threatening. Practitioners may lack awareness or empathy for the experiences and perspectives of others, leading to unfounded fears or prejudices based on stereotypes or misinformation. Bhayogati may be influenced by past experiences of trauma, violence, or persecution, which heighten sensitivity to perceived threats and trigger defensive or avoidance behaviors. Practitioners may internalize fear-based beliefs or prejudices from societal conditioning or cultural norms, perpetuating cycles of mistrust and division. Bhayogati can lead to harm and suffering for oneself and others, as fear-based attitudes and actions perpetuate cycles of mistrust and conflict. Practitioners may engage in defensive or aggressive behaviors that escalate tensions and lead to harm or violence. Bhayogati is an obstacle to compassion, karuna, and understanding, as it undermines empathy and solidarity with those perceived as different or threatening. Practitioners who are swayed by fear may lack the capacity to see the humanity and dignity of others, leading to dehumanization and discrimination. The remedy for Bhayogati lies in the cultivation of courage, compassion, and understanding towards oneself and others. Practitioners develop mindfulness, sati, to recognize the influence of fear in their thoughts and actions, and cultivate courage to face and overcome fears with wisdom and compassion. Practitioners engage in education, dialogue, and empathy-building exercises to challenge fear-based beliefs and prejudices, and to cultivate understanding and empathy towards others. By fostering connections and common humanity, practitioners transcend fear and division and cultivate genuine solidarity and compassion. In summary, ogati, or the wrong course of behavior, is a fundamental concept in Buddhism that highlights the causes and consequences of unwholesome actions and attitudes. By cultivating virtue, wisdom, and compassion, practitioners can overcome ignorance and delusion, leading to greater well-being, harmony, and liberation from suffering.